Hello.
Hey, what up, Joseph?
What's going on, Alex?
Man, chilling, man. I'm hanging out, brother. Did I catch you at a bad time? You just wake up, or what's up, man?
Oh, no. I just got done my...
So where you at?
I am in Wyoming.
Oh, man.
The Cheyenne area. So, yeah, I got caught in that blizzard when it first started in Nebraska. Man, it was horrible.
Man, that sounds horrible. How many inches of snow was that?
I don't even know, dude, but it was the worst that I've experienced, and I've been doing it for over 10 months. So when I first got in this industry, it was in the winter. And, I'd always heard that Wyoming, this area just got really bad. And, that's evident by how many signs that you see on I-80. It flashed in I-80 is closed ahead, exit. So, we were behind a damn snowplow, going 25 miles an hour, and I actually felt my truck losing traction going in a straight line at such low speeds. And then once the snowplow left, they had these drivers going past me, and I said to myself, man, these guys are insane. I got on the CB. I'm like, hey, look, I hate to tell y'all what to do. You don't have to take my advice, but y'all are going way too fast for this. And sure enough, most of the ones that passed me ended up wrecked.
No way.
10 miles. Yeah, most of them did. In fact, wrecked like right before I got to where they were at. I actually had to call the police for them because it's just ridiculous. Poor guys, they got stuck out way, kind of like ravines almost, like there's just no traction.
No, I've been there myself, man.
Oh yeah, I bet. Yeah, it's something else, man.
Shoot.
Yeah.
Can you invite, real quick, for all the people that are new that are thinking about driving in the wintertime, because that's a big thing, what's the biggest advice that you could give new people that are going to be driving in these conditions?
Well, there's so many things that go into winter driving, and I actually have spoke to drivers that have been driving for 6 or 7 months. They didn't actually start in the wintertime, and they didn't know certain things. Your brakes. When you set your brakes, you park overnight, you might wake up and your brakes are frozen to your truck. There's all kinds of little things that go along with this. But winter driving is the toughest part about truck driving, no matter what else. I mean, we all deal with construction and all that stuff, but in the winter, you cannot make a lot of money because it's so unpredictable. You might be shut down for days. So that's why in the summertime, stack as much money as you can. Don't go out and spend it because you're excited about getting paychecks bigger than you probably have ever got before. Because it's going to be a little bit lean in the wintertime. Unless you can stay down south, it's going to be lean. But even down south, I've seen it froze in Louisiana. They shut the interstate down there last winter, and we were stuck for 3 days. So, it happens. But it's not that big of a deal. You just have to get through that part. Trucking is a great industry. It's completely equal opportunity. It does not matter what your background is. And if I can make it, I know anybody can, because I have more stacked against me than I've ever met anybody else did. As long as you have a clean driving record, then you can get in this industry no matter what.
So 10 months ago, before you were a truck driver, I mean, you and I were texting a little bit, but tell the people on the Theasianmaishow, what were you doing 10 months before that? What was your career? Where was your head at that moment?
Well, that was a very, very difficult time in my life. When I was a paratrooper back in 2007 and 8, it was actually December 9th of 2008. I got locked up for a murder that I did not do, nor did I have anything to do with it. I witnessed it. And, this might sound crazy to people that don't understand the law, but every state's different. They have different types of charges for that particular instance. I saw it and I refused to say anything about it because at the time I believed that the guy did what he had to do, and I understand why he did it. And I didn't feel right telling on somebody that would have got a life sentence, because if you just up and shoot somebody, you already know you're getting a life sentence. Well, I got 8 years and maximum security for this. And what they gave me was a principal murder charge. But when people look it up, it just plainly says second-degree murder. So it's been very, very hard for me to get a job. So prior to this, after I got out of prison, you know, I was active duty when I got locked up. And after I got out, I was working $9 an hour jobs all the way up to $11. And, it was difficult because nobody wanted to give me a chance. And
Man, wait up. Backtrack a little bit. So wait up. So you were, active duty, and while you were active duty, the situation that happened, I mean, I would hate to go too much personal, but did you kind of know this was going down, or were you just at the moment like eating a Hot Pocket, and then a buddy of yours just decides, hey, I'm doing this, and then you were just sitting right there at that moment?
Well, I was sitting there right there at that moment, and I didn't know that anything was going to happen. You know, I was completely oblivious to anything that was about to happen. I was already there. And then, I thought both of these guys, I knew both of them, and I thought one of them was a friend. And out of nowhere, he got out and shot the guy. So I understood what he did it for, but I didn't know that these two were going to, it's so hard to explain, and it was so long ago, but literally I did not know anything, because believe me, I wouldn't have been there. I'm not an idiot. I had a brand new car at the time. Yeah, I had a brand new car at that time, in my name. I had guns in my name. I would have never, ever been in a situation or put myself in a situation where I would have lost all that, especially being that I loved my career. And, I jumped out of planes for a living. I always got the adrenaline rush that I wanted. It was something that was interesting. Every day I got up, it was interesting to me. Well, I lost all that, all based off of me not wanting to tell on somebody. And, I do regret not telling on them because, it kind of ruined me, for a lot of things. But I also realized that in this industry, you can get back on top. I mean, this is a solid middle class income, or upper middle class. I mean, I'm already making $80-something thousand a year after 10 months in the business, and they say that can't be done. It can. The opportunity is around, but people don't. They kind of just get discouraged. And I know how that feels. I know that it's easy to get discouraged. But you have to be like a wolf when it comes to money. And I don't know how else to explain it other than this. And this might sound kind of aggressive, but this is the only way I can think of it. A wolf tracking down the scent of an injured deer. That's how I am when it comes to this money. Because I lost 8 years for something that I honestly didn't even have anything to do with. Yeah. And the only way that I can make up for that is make good money. So, I have way bigger plans of being a company driver. I'll own my own fleet within 5 years. And I can say that with confidence because there's nothing that's going to stop me. I'm not going to give up. I feel like that my whole life.
Man, so backtracking a little bit, the reason why I want to say that is because just texting and talking to you for a little bit, I just wanted the people on the Theasianmaishow just to know that, you're not some guy setting up another guy. It was mostly because I can't tell you how many times I've ate a cheeseburger with two friends and then they just start fighting.
Yeah.
Over a girl or something like that, or at the bar. I get that, but it didn't happen to me where one guy says, hey, I'm doing this, and then, he pops the other guy. Next thing you know, I'm in the middle and they're asking me. And you know what, to be honest, I might not have snitched at the time either, you know what I mean? So,
yeah.
It's good that, I just wanted to kind of clear that up so people kind of know, a little bit about you, is that, cause that'd be more schemish if it was like, no, we were trapping this guy in a corner and then that's what happened, that'd be a different story, You really got screwed, man. You really got screwed, man. That sounds so crazy.
I know.
So 8 years. Now, 8 years, that could be a book in itself, but after 8 years, you get out. Let's start a little bit right there, man. When you got out, there's a lot of people that are, in a sense, convicted felons, right?
Yes.
And they're getting out and they're feeling that there's no job for them. And let's start at you getting out and starting to work some, I guess, minimum wage kind of jobs. What happened from there, like at that moment?
Well, the whole time that I was working, and keep in mind, when you do 8 years, when I went in, it was a different world than it is now. smartphones didn't exist. I'd never even heard of Facebook back then. I've never even seen a smartphone. I really don't think they existed. I've never seen none of that. So when I got out, I had to learn all kinds of stuff. And believe it or not, when it's kind of like being an alien, you come to Earth and you're trying to ask people to explain to you things that they don't know how to explain because it has been there for so long for them. And they're like, well, how do you not know how to do this? And I never wanted to tell people like, hey, but I also never hid it either. So it was a very difficult situation because I would have to go into places like T-Mobile and be like, listen, I don't understand what Wi-Fi is. I don't understand what this is. I don't even know how to work this phone. It's just a different world. But what caused me to get into trucking, the whole time I was working these, in long hours, and just very low pay, I was miserable. And since I'd done so much time, I was still miserable. Even you would think being free, I would have been happy. And I wasn't. I had a lot of issues mentally, a lot of stuff that was bringing me down because I couldn't get my mind off of where I was at. I just couldn't do it. And even though I was free, I wasn't because I still have this felony on me. I can't protect myself legally because if I do, I'll go back to prison. It's just, that's the way this society is. There is no second chance for somebody like me. But trucking is the closest thing to it. And I woke up in the middle of the night. As a matter of fact, I went to sleep early and I woke up about 2 hours later and I could not get back to sleep. I kept on thinking about this. I'm like, this is not the trajectory that I wanted for my life. And there's got to be a way to fix this. And I refuse to believe that this is it. I just can't do it. This isn't worth living for, and I've got a wonderful fiance. She has always been supportive since day one. She's always been understanding. She's always believed in me. And a lot of people that, I speak to, before they first really know me, they might think that I'm making this stuff up, but it's all true. And she never once doubted me from the first day we met. And that night, I was working for Napa, actually, and I was supposed to go to work at about 7 a.m. next morning. And I could not go back to sleep for the life of me. And I sent my boss a text right before, I'd say 6:30 or so. And I just said, hey, I'm sorry. I can't do it anymore, man. I'm not going to be able to come back. And, U.S. Express led me to believe that they were going to send me to trucking school, and they were going to hire me right after. And then the same hour that I quit my job, after being up all night, they tell me that they can't do anything for me. It was unbelievable, and it was really a distressing situation because now I'm unemployed. Very hard to get a job, especially where I live, and I didn't know what to do. So I started getting on the phone, getting on Google and all this stuff, and I found a trucking school in Milton, Florida, and it's called Truck Driver Institute. I called the director, and she's a very nice lady. I really appreciate her. She was a major blessing because she made a way. She tried so hard to not only get me in school with no money. I had to get a loan for this. It was $8,000, and a lot of people say that's high, but for me, I don't care. I wouldn't have cared if it was $15,000. She made it happen, and she also found me a job. And I swear, this lady had to have called 20 or more trucking companies that she had contacts with, and not one of them wanted to give me a chance until Wally Sanders. So I will always have, a spot in my heart for Wally Sanders, but the pay was horrendous. It was better than some starting out, but after being away from my fiance and the kids and stuff, I couldn't justify it anymore. It just wasn't enough money. It was 38 cents a mile starting out, and I got up to 40, and I wasn't getting any miles. And I'm the type of person that I will run myself into the ground. And they weren't giving me miles. I was sitting for three or 4 days out of a week.
So where is Wally Sanders so that people that now will they hire people in your similar situation again, or was your situation? Yes. They will.
They will. They will hire felons. This is really strange, but they had a guy that also had some situation kind of similar to mine. The only difference is he actually moved the body. He was working for some people that were business owners, and apparently it was some type of like mob situation where he wasn't in it, but he worked for them, and he was involved with it. But it was a mistake that he made. He ended up doing 16 years for that. And he got out and he's in trucking. He's actually doing really well, but he's team driving with Wally Sanders. And in my opinion, that is the only way you'll do good with the company. But I'm not saying anything bad about that company. They are a great starter company. You can learn a lot, and I highly recommend them if you're starting out. But
are they everywhere, or where can people, because people that maybe in your similar situation might be like, hey, I need to go to Wally Sanders because that might be my only chance to really get my foot in the door. Where's the company at, or how many branches do they have, you know?
It is based in Troy, Alabama, and I don't know the specific hiring area, but I do know people that live in Florida. They hire out of there, and I do know people that live all over the state of Alabama. They hire them. But Wally Sanders is not just a trucking company. Wally Sanders has their own lead manufacturing plant and plastic. So they have their own freight. So this is a company that in bad economic times, you will be able to make okay money, no matter what. It's just not good to be home or away from home for 3 weeks at a time and you're only making $700 or $800 a week. That's just unacceptable. But to start out, you've got to get your experience, and it's worth it because there's companies out there, dude, that won't pay hardly anything compared to that, like Carolina Cargo. You know, they'll hire felons, but you're not going to make but about $500, $400 a week, you know?
So and it's kind of like some of my videos that maybe you've watched as well is, your first year in trucking, regardless if felon or not, you're making $500-$600 if you're lucky, up to $800 or so, right, a week.
Yeah, on average, that's what you should expect. But this is my advice to anybody getting in this industry, and this is only for trucking. I wouldn't really suggest this for another industry because sometimes it backfires on you with that. Trucking, job hopping is not a problem because your first company, when you start out, they're never going to pay you good. It doesn't matter if you stay with them for 6 or 7 years, you're not going to make good money with them. Once you get some experience, I would say 9, 10 months, something like that, then you take that experience and you leverage that onto a company that is actually, you know, they're going to value that. They're going to say, oh, you know, we do need drivers. You got 10 months of experience. Yes, we'll take you on. You'll get you a lot more money compared to where you were at, but you have to, it's a lot of work searching for these places. And, you know, recruiters will lie to you. So you have to learn what questions to ask. You've got to basically have a bullshit meter. I can't think of any other way to say it. You really just have to, because I've caught them in lies that are just so ridiculous that, you know, I feel bad because a new driver probably would have fell for it.
What's one of them so people can know? What's one of them so people can know?
Well, I've had, like for instance, one lady told me, she was like, yeah, our drivers make, you know, such and such a week, and, you know, the rate per mile starting out is fantastic and blah, blah, blah. So I said, okay, so what is the start out rate? She said something along the lines of 46 cents a mile. And she said that their drivers are averaging a certain amount of money per week. I said, so what is the average miles per week? And she said something ridiculous like 2,000 or 2,300 a week. The math didn't even add up. You know, I'm on my phone. I'm on my headset. So I quickly pulled out my calculator and I went 0.46 times what mileage she's saying. And it's like, I mean, it's a huge difference of what she's saying. I said, well, if that's the average miles per week and your truck is governed at 65, as you say, there's no way that your drivers are making it. It's not even physically possible. No. And, you know, they don't like to hear stuff like that because they expect you to, you know, be the dumb truck driver that doesn't know how to think, you know, and I hate to say that, but a lot of guys don't invest in their self, and you do have the time. You're driving. You can listen to podcasts. You can listen to YouTube. You can make yourself better. You know, listen to motivational speakers. Listen to business accountants. And a lot of people just don't seem to do it. They'll listen to their music and they'll talk on the phone, and you got all this time driving. You know, it's amazing. But you can do so good in this industry if you just take your time when you first start out, get as much experience as possible, and talk to truck drivers that have been in this business. That's what I've been doing. I wanted to know when I first started, is this a good industry to be in? And some people say it's not. And it is tough. I will say that. This is not easy. If it was, it wouldn't pay so good. But if you can get 2 years of experience, there's so many opportunities that open to you. My suggestion, and this is just my personal preference, after my experiences, I won't go to an American company ever again. But my long-term goal is to be basically a fleet owner. Okay. But the American companies have a lot of nonsense with them. I haven't really found but maybe a couple or maybe three that I thought were a pretty good deal. But European companies, all that money that they save by not marketing, like you see Titan do and Swift do and all that stuff, you always hear about those companies. You don't hear about the Europeans because they keep their overhead low. They don't market. You found them by Craigslist or word of mouth. They don't spend money on advertising. So those companies take that money that they saved and they give it to their drivers. If you find a European company and you've got 10 months to a year or two years, try your best to get on with them. And I'm telling you, there's so much money to be made just as a company driver. Now, the flip side of that is most of those places are 1099. And there's, mixed opinions on 1099. Some people say, you're scamming yourself because you got to pay your 15% self-employment tax and all that. But you've got to learn how to start. Basically, as a 1099, you're supposed to be an independent contractor. All right. If you start an LLC or an S corp, there is ways that you can save money on taxes, and you can have some deductions. As a company's driver, you don't really get that. What is that called? The per diem. But as an independent contractor, you get that again, from my understanding. So even if you do have to pay extra taxes, if you're making what I'm making, it doesn't really matter because I'm still making more than I would make at any American company that I've pretty much found with my experience level that I can get on with.
So let's backtrack a little bit. So after Wally Sanders, and you were there for how many months?
I was there for, I think, 9 months.
9 months.
10 months.
And
something like that. It was like 9 months.
And then, because right now, as the total, from the beginning to now, how much experience do you have now, so that the people can know?
It's something over 10 months. I might be very close to 11, or I might be on my 11th month. I'm trying to remember. I started trucking school last December, and I got my CDL. Huh?
Yeah, so you're about there. So basically, it sounds like you were there for about 10 months, and you found it after Wally Sanders. You found a new job that sounds amazing. So how did that come about? And let the people know. And are they hiring? And is there opportunity for others?
Well, this is an interesting topic here because this is kind of what's going on here with what we're talking about. I actually found that job. I was listening to Red Viking Truckers channel, and he had a live feed, and I noticed that there was a guy on there. He was talking about, he actually has an interview on there with him, and he was talking about how much he's making, and the guy only had like 5 or 6 months of experience making over $1,800 a week. And I wanted very badly to get in touch with him not just because of the money he was making, but he was a felon. And I actually got in contact with him that day. And really good guy, I have to give him props because without him, I don't know how long it would have took me to find this opportunity. I don't. But because I was completely unaware about the European companies, I was completely unaware of, certain regions of the country pay drivers a little bit more. Texas seems to pay a little bit more for their drivers. Illinois seems to pay a little bit more for the drivers compared to other states. And when I talked to Fred, I asked him what company he's working for, and he told me a lot about them, and it sounded really good to me. Now, I do want to say that the company that I'm with, I'm on the lower end of the spectrum as far as this region that I'm hired out of goes, because I know migrants from Somalia, that they're making more money than I am,
Really? And
so
I mean, I don't want to use the word exposed, but can you say what company you're working for?
Yes, I work for a place called Sharp One, and I don't know. I heard, and in fact, Fred's the one that told me. He said that they did change their new rules, and I don't know if it's an insurance thing or what. I think that they require a little bit more experience now, but also I have noticed this too. If you can sell yourself, if you know how to speak to people, and you basically are just a good salesperson, you can get into companies that specifically state you must have 2 years of experience.
I like that.
It's flexible. They say it's not, but a lot of times it is. The reason that they say that it's not is because sometimes those companies have insurance restrictions. For them not to pay a ridiculous sum for insurance, which they're going to pay that anyway, but way too much, they're going to have to say, we can't take somebody with less than 2 years. Because if you got less than 2 years, it's a different insurance rate. But like I said, it varies. It varies from company to company. You know, I've heard companies say that you need 3 years of experience, yet there's a guy that's got a year and a half. They hired him. It's a presentation. You know, if you can, I actually suggest not only calling them, but going up to meet them. You know, if you can go and meet them and you look different. A lot of people have this stereotype in mind of truck drivers, how they're supposed to look. A lot of people think that they're all supposed to look like kind of like gruff country people, you know, not to say anything bad about any particular person, but there's a negative type of stereotype going on here where they feel like, you know, drivers are dirty or drivers are crude or, you know, ignorant, and that's not the case. There's a lot of smart people in trucking. There's businessmen out here running these trucks. I've heard of people that left Wall Street jobs to start trucking. And that's true, you know? So if you can go in there looking completely different than a truck driver stereotype and you know how to speak to them, just present a good face. They're going to automatically want to hire you because you don't meet the stereotype. They want good drivers, and this business is so hard to find good drivers. That's why you see these companies advertising so much, because they get these drivers that they make their company look bad. They're wrecking all the time. They're always, you know, getting violations and so forth and so on. There's a lot of opportunity. And honestly, if you're a felon, there is no better opportunity, in my opinion, than trucking.
No,
like I said before, it's not easy.
That's your story.
It's truly amazing.
No, your story is definitely motivational, and it sounds like the company you're with now, Sharp One, they probably want 2 years, but if you go to them presentably, you go with them and you actually go and meet with the company, and they see who you are and they see how driven you are, then that might change the rules a bit, right?
I do think so. I do believe so, because I halfway think that they may have already stated that before I got on with them, and once I spoke to them, I'm like, hey, listen, I know that y'all probably hear this all the time. I know drivers probably say, hey, look, I'm a runner, and then they only do 2,500, 3,000 miles a week. That's not a runner. You know, no offense to anybody out there, but 3,000 miles a week, you should be able to do way more than that if you've got a truck that goes, you know, somewhere around 68 to 75 miles an hour. I do 4,000 miles a week on a regular basis.
I love that. You hungry, brother. And that's the thing, man. And I appreciate you for, you know, just your life story in general. I mean, do you, with what you've talked about, do you feel comfortable with me, putting this, on the show? Cause this would be inspirational, but I don't want to disrespect you at all. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, no. And I appreciate that. No, the way I view life, if you help somebody, it will come back to you. And I wish that more people understood how life really works. Everything's interconnected. Felons have such a hard time getting a job. If this can help anybody, regardless of your background, I don't care if you've got a felony, I don't care if you don't have a felony. You know, if you are down in the dumps and you feel like there's no way to get up and you're making $25,000, $30,000 a year and you've got a car note that's $500, you've got to pay rent, ditch the apartment. Ditch that rental home. And if need be, ditch that car. And if you do that and you get into trucking, especially if you're single, this will change your life rapidly. you can save all that money that you were wasting on rent. You don't need rent because you can live out of this truck and stay on the road and make more money than somebody making technically more money than you, but they go home, after 2 weeks. They go home after a week. Some of them take every weekend off. You're cutting into your pay doing that. But I have a family, so I don't have that same opportunity. But if you do have a family, this will still change your life. Sit your family down and talk to them and just tell them, listen, I want us to get somewhere. This is an opportunity to make this happen. It's going to take sacrifices, but if you can do it just for a few years and you can save your money, pay off whatever debt you have, you can get you a house. And I guarantee you this, if you don't already have a house and you've got a wife or fiance or something like that, I bet you anything that they will be willing to make the sacrifice to get a house by having you away a little bit, They'll understand most of the time they will.
Man, I like that. I had this theory, right? And I haven't been to prison or anything like that, and I'm not even going to pretend to be this, to live a situation that I've never lived, right? But I had this theory myself where, people look at people with felonies like they can't be in trucking. But when I think back, now again, I don't live this experience, but as a person in prison, you're locked up, you're in small spaces, you have to follow rules, and you're by yourself a lot. That sounds a lot like trucking.
Yes, exactly. And you already have a leg up with a felony because you can deal with easier anyway. Everybody can deal with it if they try to. You can do anything you put your mind to, and people just, they try to put you down so you can't. You have to make the decision. But as a felon, if you have been in a cage before, this is actually pure freedom. Because most of the time you're not going to have a boss breathing down your neck. You're not, I deal with brokers, okay? So I do get a lot of phone calls. But I choose that. I could just tell them, hey, I don't want to take any phone calls. Y'all deal with that. I don't do that, though, because I don't mind it. You're in a truck, you're driving, you get to travel. This is a fact. The vast majority of people in the United States have barely been out of their state. And if they have, it's only been like neighboring states, or they might have taken a plane. This is real traveling. I've been to every state in the union besides Maine, and I've only been in the business for, something over 10 months, and I've got pictures, amazing pictures, I've taken 30-minute breaks in places that I never thought that I would, ever get a chance to go to. Beautiful places like Montana, Lewis and Clark Trail, stuff like that. It's just amazing. You can do so much in this industry if you find the right company.
No, I love that, man. So at the end of all this, besides some of the things that you talked about in your personal life that you, in a sense, wish you would have done differently, what would you like to leave people with that are listening to our conversation now, that are maybe in the same situation or, nervous about trucking, or they have, the thing I hear a lot is they have a job that they hate. It's a dead-end job. They work 2 jobs, but they have a mortgage and they have a family. So, excuse me. So they can't just leave that and drop it to try something new. What would you like to leave people with in general? You know what I mean?
Well, but the way I did it, I don't think that I would really change anything, because I didn't really just jump into it. I had trucking in the back of my head for quite a while, and I was interested in it for a while. So I had done all my research, and I tried to learn as much as possible before I took the leap. Now, I did not see myself really doing that leap, and it just happened. That it was that decision, that split decision where I just, in the middle of the night, right before, finally the morning's coming around and I still haven't slept, I just said, I'm going to go ahead and do it,
Man,
it was a tough decision.
You're such a grinder, bro. Like, seriously, I love your personality, man. And it almost sounds like, for all the people out there, man, it's almost like, F you, do it, don't do it, don't cry about it. If you want it, get it, right? I love it.
Exactly, and that's life in general. There's things that kind of are unexplainable per se. Science can't really prove it, but I have seen this in my life. And, people have their own opinions. People might say it's hocus pocus. That's fine. Live your own life. You can control a lot with thought. If you put out certain thoughts, opportunities will arise. It's about being aware. If you are an aware person, you will see opportunities that other people don't, and you can capitalize off of that. I'm actually about to make another switch, and when I do, in a few weeks, I'm going to be making not only more money, but there's a whole nother opportunity here that a lot of people probably wouldn't see. And it's really, I know it's just going to work out great for me. And you know what? Even if it didn't, guess what? One door closes, another one opens. You just have to see it. But life will throw hurdles in your path. And you got to look at it as a test. You know, I read something one time about, hey, it was a guy that was, digging for gold or whatever, and he didn't find anything and he quit. He just tossed the shovel in. Another guy came back. He dug a little bit deeper and he found the gold. And you got to look at life like that. Just don't quit. It's your life. This is your movie. You are the one that has this ultimate control. And if somebody with a murder charge on their record, regardless if they did it or not, somebody with a messed up background, if they can succeed, dude, somebody without a messed up background can succeed. It is a mind thing. You have to be the controller of your life. And just don't take no for an answer, because that's one thing that I'm never going to do. I'm not going to quit. I'm going to be a millionaire before the age of 38. I refuse, and I'm 29 now. And I suspect that it's going to be a lot sooner than that.
I love it.
Because I will do things that other people probably wouldn't want to do. And I'm not saying it's easy, but it is a mindset.
I love that, brother, man. Overall, brother, I appreciate you for everything and for this phone call. And you know what? I think that, I try to help people, but in this conversation, I think when people listen to it, they're gonna feel motivated. And honestly, it's straight from the hustle and grind, man. Like, so many people make excuses for not having, opportunities. And man, a lot of cards were stacked against you, brother. So I appreciate you for this phone call, man.
Oh, no problem, dude. I appreciate you having me. I mean, I've never done something like this before, but it's kind of interesting. I've always been on YouTube, dude. I've been following all kinds of different truckers on YouTube since before I even got in the industry. YouTube is my number one tool while I'm driving. I don't actually watch the videos because, I'm driving, but I plug it in and I listen to it over my speakers. You can learn a lot from other people's experiences, and, I do highly recommend trucking for somebody that is just tired of living a broke life. That's just not the type of life to live.
Oh, shoot, man. Well, definitely be safe, brother. And we will talk again soon, man. Thanks so much for the conversation, man. It was awesome.
You're welcome, Alex. You have a good one.
Man, you too, man. Peace.
Peace.